Poirot did it. By the way, he's not in this one, Ben.
No, he's not.
He said he was, but he's not.
I was thinking of the final curtain.
Yeah. Yeah, it has final.
But
That's final in the title, you fool.
Okay, this is an emergency. What's going on?
Yeah, Words About Books covering Agatha Christie, and then there were none. So when you were telling me earlier, you're like, wow, I just saw the original title of the original book. I thought it was 10 Little Indians or 10 Little Engines. No,
it's not.
That is not. That is, nope. I saw the original.
Did you just figure that out?
Yes!
You literally just now figured out what the title was.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Fuck.
no, because I messaged you and I was
so
like...
much worse.
Yeah, I was like, do you know what the title of this book was? And you're like, oh yeah, James already told me. And I was like, oh shit, man, I guess I'm just being like a...
No, James. James did not tell me that. James lied to me. You son of a bitch.
Okay, so let's... I want to jump into this. I want to jump into this right now. So...
Oh, God.
Okay, first I want to say one thing. The one thing I want to say is... We're talking about And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie.
Yes.
This is the rare book we cover that will be ruined by spoilers. We are going to get into spoilers. So, if you want to really enjoy this book and you have not read it, go out, read it. It's super quick. I read this in like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got done over about 3 days, not putting in a whole lot of time each day.
Yeah. So I strongly encourage you to read this because while I think a lot of the books we cover, you can spoil them but still enjoy reading them, I don't think that's the case with this one. You really need to experience it.
Yeah,
so,
it's a mystery novel. The fun is in the mystery. All right.
With that said, okay, I have so much to say about the history of the publication of this book.
Oh, God. Let it rip, Ben. Let it rip.
So, first off, book was published in 1939 in Britain under the title 10 Little N-Words. We are not going to say the title.
No.
And
oh my God.
Immediately, when it was published in 1940 in America, it was changed to And Then There Were None. And somebody went through and replaced every instance of the N-word with the word soldier. So that's where that came from. Now, do you know there was a play and a movie, of course, with the original title, and there have been many adaptations with the original title. They still used the original title in Britain until, I want to say, 1975.
I thought it was in the 80s, but that's still not good.
The final printing with that title was in the 80s. And there were reprints. So it's gone on, like, it went well past that. But the interesting thing is the title comes from a rhyme that was famous in minstrel shows. So this is how this goes. There were these minstrel shows that got internationally famous. They would take the minstrel shows that were in America doing the circuit, and they shipped them over to the UK, like they'd go on tour. And so that's where this became popular. It started in America, with our racism, went to England. They adopted it because they're a little racist too. And by the time it circled back to us, we were like, oh no, you can't say that. Like, America in 1939 wasn't perfect, but like, it was far from perfect. But we were at least like, I don't think you could publish it. No. But the other thing, with all that in mind, this is, hands down, the most popular book she's ever written.
Oh my God, really?
One of the most popular books in the world, period. This is one of the most, like, the best-sellingest fiction books of all time.
Oh my God, it was her top-selling book.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. This is the book that put Agatha Christie's, like after this, she did a bunch of nursery rhyme ones. I went so deep into this, and that's why, like, I was so deep into this, I was so ready to talk to you about this, and then when I said, I was like, do you know what the original title of this book was? And you were like, yeah, Jamie told me. And then you didn't say anything else. I was like, oh, maybe I'm making too big a deal out of this.
No.
I don't know, maybe I'm the weird.
James said it was 10 Little Indians, and I was like, well, it's a little much. And then, we get the actual one. It's a lot worse.
Yeah, so
much worse.
I'm cribbing a few notes. I actually looked at another podcast for this. There's a podcast out there that's way more famous than ours called All About Agatha. And my mom made me listen to this. She's a huge fan of their podcast, and she's a huge fan of Agatha Christie. And they talk in a lot more detail about Agatha Christie's history than we ever could. I think they've even interviewed people from the Christie estate. They're a really good podcast if you're into Agatha Christie. I think I learned from them that the 10 Little Indians, or Injuns, I think is what they say, I don't think that was actually ever the book. As far as I know, it was immediately replaced with Soldier Boys instead of the alternative, and there was no Indian step in between. I think the Indian step was one of the plays.
Okay.
So, yeah, there was, as far as I know, there was never a book where they censored it as Indians and then censored it as soldiers. Now, since the 1980s, we'll say, the Christie estate has switched the official title of it to And Then There Were None, and they have officially adopted the soldier motif. So just know, literally, it's like a find replace. Literally, every time they said soldier, it was the N-word. And
Oh my God.
I have to give credit to the All About Agatha podcast that I didn't catch this. It's a pretty seamless transition in most places, but they pointed out that there is one part where it does come into conflict with the story. And there's one part where we'll get into the story a little bit, but there's
Oh my God, and it was called Soldier Island, Ben.
Yes,
oh
that's
my
what I'm
God.
telling you.
Oh my
that's
Jesus.
what I'm telling you.
Oh God. Oh,
Yes.
oh, Jesus.
Yes. And so there's one part where there is a staunch religious fanatic who is like, religious fanatics back in those days tended to be abolitionist minded, not necessarily out of equality or anything, but because they believed it was morally wrong according to the Christian faith.
No,
to
equality
own
had nothing
slaves.
to do with it.
Yeah. So
once,
at one
once
point,
you're released from slavery, you were on your own there.
yeah, one of the people is accused of like murdering natives in Africa. And somebody says like, oh, that's not a big deal. And she says, well, they are our black brothers and sisters. And then the other girl starts laughing hysterically at the black brothers and sisters comment. And it doesn't make any goddamn sense in the book why she's laughing until you realize the soldier boy motif was supposed to be... Yes. So, I'm so glad you figured that out all on your own. Because I was going to bring it up and you were going to hear about it right now.
Yeah, no. I was just like, I need to... I don't remember everyone's name. Let me just pull up the Wikipedia real quick. And then there it is, staring me right in the face. The
Picture of the
original
cover. Yeah.
The picture on the cover.
Oh, it's so bad.
Jesus Christ.
No, it's taken literally from a minstrel show.
Oh my God.
I don't know what you could say about that because
UK editions continue to use it until 1985, Ben.
So I don't know. You could make the argument that it's a less offensive term over there. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I haven't talked to anybody about this specific topic, but I have to imagine it's not cool to say over there either, and it hasn't been cool to say over there for about as long as it hasn't been cool to say over here, which is always the only thing I could say to separate Agatha Christie from like an H.P. Lovecraft is A, Agatha Christie can write, and
Who
B,
got him?
Yeah, and B, she didn't invent this. She didn't invent this rhyme. She took something that was a popular rhyme that a lot of people would have known, and she used it. And I do think with the change to soldier, it's better in every way.
Better in every way, yes.
Except that one I mentioned where that one line doesn't quite work anymore, but I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't listened to this other podcast. So, again, credit to them.
Yeah, and this was also voted on by our patrons.
Yeah, you're all to blame. It's actually a very good book.
Well, on the plus side, Ben, this was released in 1939. Their empire doesn't last too much longer.
No, and you want to know the other thing about
it falls
being,
apart pretty fucking quick right after this.
I had to, when I immediately had to look it up, though, and this is where I found out the original title. I had to look up when it was written because one of the characters is General MacArthur.
Yep.
And I was like...
For some reason, the A isn't capital, but yeah.
Well, it's not the same guy.
No, obviously.
But, like, why would you name somebody General MacArthur? And I was like, this has to be before, like, he got famous. Let's talk about the book. Let's get into it.
It starts with a various different people from all over British society. 8 people got an invite to this island just off the coast of Devon. Is it pronounced Devon? That's how I always pronounce it.
Devon, yeah. Basically
just off the coast of the UK. And it was bought by some mysterious wealthy guy. It was owned previously by some big shot Hollywood American star. So this is going to be like the fucking greatest party of all parties, right? There's this air of mystery of who owns it now and why are we all going there. So they all arrive through various means to a dockyard. I'm going to start listing these 8 people. Are you ready for this, Ben? First off, you've got Justice Wargrave. I think that when he became a judge, he probably just changed his name to Justice. He's not an American, but with that name, goddammit, he's an honorary American to me.
Yeah, we'd let him in.
Yeah.
We'd give him his complimentary bald eagle and sidearm.
You give him a tank. That's the kind of man this Justice Wargrave is. That's the kind of name that this is. So awesome.
Okay.
Now, after that, you've got kind of I pictured her as kind of like a squirrely, shy woman named is it Vera or Vera Claythorne? Vera Claythorne. She's going to be a secretary on this island for the owner, Mr. Owens.
Now, you and I pictured her very differently.
Oh?
I pictured her as kind of like just generic, young, hot thing.
Oh, I did not picture her as hot, but...
No, I did. I thought she was kind of like the antithesis of, was it Mrs. Brent? Or what's her name? The older
Emily
lady?
Brent. She's the other woman on this 8-person voyage. She's a boomer, essentially. She's 65 years old. She talks about how kids these days and whatever, and she's really religious and pious to the detriment of all of humanity.
She was lured here with the promise of a holiday free of nudity and gramophones.
Those gramophones, they're the devil's work, I tell ya.
You put a gramophone on and the kids just start taking their clothes off.
Kids these days, they don't even know what it takes to maintain a global empire to the detriment of the rest of humankind and also most of your own subjects. Back in my day, we didn't even learn things.
Back in my day, we pooped in a hole we dug in the ground, and when that hole filled up, you dug another hole next to it.
Goddamn right. It was a better time. Yeah, she's a straight up boomer. I laughed about that. It's like, wow, some things just never change. Apparently when you hit that age, it's just nothing but complaining and whining and bitching. So that's her. And apparently Claythorne is the antithesis of that. She's super hot. All right. Maybe
I just thought
why...
she was like youth, and she was a more modern woman, like to juxtapose.
Oh my god,
with, like...
she had a slightly loosened corset. The scandal.
Well, I mean, she has a career. She has her own life.
That is true.
Pursues
she has
her own
a career.
relationships.
Back in
Like,
my day, women didn't have careers.
I can imagine Mrs. Brent saying that.
Yes, it's true, too.
Yeah.
Then we've got, of course, we've said General, I think it's John MacArthur. He's not the one we're thinking of, but he's a retired World War I hero. He kind of comes off as just like a sad sack shit boy, so yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot to him.
And spoiler alert, he is going to be one of the first ones off for that exact reason. So don't get used to this guy. Don't associate with him. He's not that important. Then we've got Dr. Armstrong, a big shot up and coming doctor who he's really complaining about the fact that he's got to keep working so hard because he's finally broke into the business and made it. And if you stop, suddenly people won't come to you anymore, and you're fading out of the doctor realm or whatever.
Well, and let's also point out that he has built a practice around treating, as near as I could tell, women's hysteria.
Oh no, my period!
Yes.
Or like women's issues, quote unquote.
Mostly, yeah, they show up and he's like, most of them are just lonely or bored, but I can't tell them that, so I just find something to diagnose them with, say that they were right to come see me, and then I give them a harmless treatment that doesn't really do anything but make them feel better that someone listens.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He says, like, they go to all these other doctors, and all these other doctors say there's nothing wrong with them, because there isn't. There's nothing wrong with them. But he'll give them a diagnosis just to shut them up and keep them happy. And now that they have a diagnosis, they all think he's a genius, because no other doctor could figure it out.
Yeah. I'm not saying that doesn't still happen today, but, you know. It also helps that he didn't have insurance to deal with back then, so he just got sweet, sweet, hard cash.
Yeah, when people are paying in cash, you're like, I don't know. You got a case of the lady troubles. Take another cocaine lollipop. Here you go.
You know that one of the treatments for hysteria was a pelvic massage, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you people used to do.
You people. Oh, okay. All right. Then after that, we've got a real mercenary type, real shady character with apparently sharpened shark-like teeth. He doesn't give no shits about this polite society bullshit. He's a maverick. He's a rogue. Philip Lombard.
Philip Lombard is a bit of a mercenary, and like by mercenary, I mean literally a mercenary.
Yeah.
He's here for 100 guineas. I don't know what 100 guineas is. I assume it's a lot of money. Or a generous supply of fuzzy creatures.
That would be a very weird twist.
I don't know. These British people and their funny money, like, why can't you just use dollars?
Guinea was a
what's the
coin
pound?
minted in Great Britain between 1663 and 1814. So approximately 1/4 of an ounce of gold.
What the fuck is he going to spend guineas on? This is 1939.
Well, I guess it's got gold in the coins, and I don't know if they're still on the gold standard, but maybe they were, so that's probably worth some money.
Oh, okay.
Look, when you live on the edges of society like this, man, you don't take that shitty paper money. You get solid gold or nothing. And then finally, a guy shows up who... We see this from everyone's perspective, right? And this guy is William Blore, but he introduces himself as Davis, a guy who was born in South Africa.
Zeph so fresh, man. That's how he talks, and like he's immediately figured out.
Yeah. Well, a few of them don't figure it out because they're too busy being pretty racist.
Nelson Mandela, also from South Africa. I remember that.
Thanks.
World Cup, Vuvuzelas. I'm just listing everything I know about South Africa. I'm this guy. I'm Blore right now. This is Blore trying to present himself as South African. He's like, Nelson Mandela, Vuvuzelas, apartheid.
Yeah.
You know.
So yeah, they all get on that boat. They go to Soldier Island.
I feel like you're forgetting people.
No, there's 8 people that go to the island, and then there are 2 people on the island.
Yeah, but there was definitely
Wargrave,
one person.
Claythorne, Lombard, Blore, who goes by Davis. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. You're right. I'm forgetting one guy, Ben. As they're all about to leave, there's some really sweet music blaring in the air, and you've got a guy peeling down the highway at a brisk 35 miles an hour in his sports automobile.
Kilometers, let's be real. They're over in driving on the wrong side of the road country.
Tony Marston.
Tony.
Yeah.
Tony Marston.
He's a chiseled god. A real fast guy. He got that new automobile, and he's
Do you know how many
putting the
times
pedal to the metal. He's getting a solid 35 kilometers.
It
you
just
can't
sounds
see
so
a horse,
stupid, right?
You can't see a horse and buggy do this. Vroom, vroom.
So
Cars
his car
didn't go very
sucks.
fast back then. I mean, they went faster than everything else, but, like, he's going slower than I do every day just going to work.
Factor in the fact that they were made of, like, 100% solid metal, and they could really crack a skull or two in this case. Anthony Marston, he is specifically compared not just to a god, but to a Norse god. A Norse god. Every time, and we were like right in the middle of recording that Thor episode when I was reading this, and she keeps comparing him to a Norse god. And remember how I told you I always picture Thor as like the fat Thor? That's why I was like, oh yeah. But I think she's picturing him as more of a Tyr or a Heimdall in this case, as Heimdall was the most handsome of the man gods until Balder. But yeah, so he's a real Heimdall Chad type, and I think Agatha Christie was like into it.
Yeah.
Like everybody comments.
He's got that vroom vroom that make the boom boom, am I right?
Everybody, male and female, including like the old salt that boats them to the island, is like, that's a man.
God damn right.
And that car. He's rich. He's hot. What doesn't he have?
A human soul, probably. We'll get to that,
Yeah,
though.
yeah, we'll get to that, yeah.
So we get to the island, and there are 2 other people here. I don't remember their first names other than they are Mr. and Mrs. Rogers. He is Rogers, she's Mrs. Rogers. I guess that's how you did it back then.
They're both Rogers, but like she has the pink bow, so you know that she's the girl Rogers.
Yes, she also is perpetually afraid, apparently. Everyone looks at her and goes, wow, looks like she's seen a ghost.
And this time you don't stand a ghost of a chance.
She's just terrified of everything.
Well, she did get hired, but mysteriously to work alone on the only house on Soldier Island.
Soldier Island, let's be very clear. Yeah. So Rogers is the butler, and Mrs. Rogers is the cook and housekeeper. I don't know what the exact difference between those 2 things are, but...
Well, he buttles.
He buttles, and she housekeeps.
She cooks, and I think he does everything else, basically. Like, she cooks and cleans, and then he has to go through and, like, this is an old-timey house, right? Even though it's, like, it's described as being very modern in the book.
It's the most modern of old-timey houses.
It's the most modern thing Agatha Christie could envision, which is, to my high exacting standards.
It's got electricity.
Sometimes.
Shit, man. It's got a generator for that electricity.
It's got all that canned tongue you can tongue.
Oh, God. That was so gross. You guys ate tongue?
I never want to taste something that can taste me back. That's my only rule about food. I have more than that rule about food, but that's one of my rules about food. I'll eat something with a face, but I don't want to eat its face, And I don't want to eat anything that can taste me back.
So yeah, they all arrived at this island. The Rogers are there, and they're like, yeah, sorry, our host, the Owenses, they're going to be a little late, they said, by a few days, so we're just going to keep y'all comfortable. No big deal. Few things. There's framed copies of an old rhyme in every guest's room that has soldier written over certain words.
I'm very relieved to see that you're all white, because that would have been a real whoopsie doodles.
And on the dining room table, there are 10 soldier figurines.
They have little hats put on them, so they're soldiers.
Yes. And nothing else.
And nothing else.
So they all have a delightful dinner, and they start to kind of talk with one another, like, oh, this is weird. I didn't expect all you random people to also be on this island. Huh. And then a phonograph plays,
I've got something in my front pocket for you.
accusing every single visitor and the Rogerses of having done a murder.
Every one of you is a fucking murderer, and I'm about to tell you right now exactly what each and every one of you did.
Tony Marston ran some people over in his lightning fast buggy.
Not just people, 2 children.
The Rogerses, they did a murder on their former employer, an old lady. General MacArthur, he ordered the intentional death of his underling in World War I. It was on purpose, Ben.
I gathered, yeah, by the murder. Yeah.
Emily Brent, she let one of her servants die. Dr. Armstrong, he killed one of his patients. He was drunk as hell. Mr. Blore did some perjury that led to a guy dying as a result. And this is when they are all like, Blore? There's no one here named Blore. It's this asshole Davis.
Who could it be, man?
Mr. Philip Lombard, you abandoned people in... Was it South Africa? It was a colonial territory. You got a bunch of
Africa,
natives killed.
Yeah. 21 natives killed. He has quite the body count.
Vera Claythorne, she let a kid drown on purpose. Justice Wargrave, you sentenced a man to death who shouldn't have been sentenced to death. That was it. They're all murderers, and they're all going to be brought to justice. Not to Justice Wargrave, but just to justice.
To a justice.
And this is when everyone realizes, like, wait a minute, who invited you here? And it was like a friend of a friend, or a shady contact for Lombard. Blore was supposed to come here to watch all these people. The doctor was supposed to be a personal doctor to the host. Emily Brent was invited by a friend, she thinks, but the name at the bottom is really fuzzy, and she's just like, oh, my vision's going, I guess I'll just go see her. That way we can talk about how we hate all the youth these days. So, yeah, they were all invited there under false pretenses. The Rogers, they have never seen their hosts. And that's when one of them points out that the names of these people are unknown. Unknown. Bum, 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 bum.
Hey, Justice Wargrave. I mean, Justice Wargrave is just sitting there like, yeah, it's unknown. Did none of you get that? It's unknown. Like, I don't know. I think that's pretty witty, but this is me.
So most people are like, I did not kill those people. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they all have an excuse. That's what I love.
It's hilarious because it's like, okay, you're full of shit. So you're pretty sure everyone else is also full of shit, but you just all pretend and deny, even though...
So let's talk about them. So Anthony Marston, he is the best because
I ran him over. They were in my way.
They were in the street, guys. Yeah. Like, what was I supposed to do? Hit the brakes? That could hurt my brakes.
Yeah. I need to go fast. A blazing fast 35 mph, bro. I can't slow down for nobody.
No, so he's a real piece of shit. Like, he doesn't even care. And then, like, Lombard is kind of in the same camp where what he did, he was in the jungle, right? And he's on this mission, and they're not going to make it back. That's basically what's happened. They're going to run out of supplies or something.
Yeah,
so him and like the other 2 white guys take all the supplies and leave the 21 natives to die, which they do. And he's like, hey, it's survival, man.
Hey, they were
And-
natives, so, I'm justified.
Vera Claythorne, she hangs on till the bitter end with hers, but I'll just tell you now, essentially, this kid was like, I want to go swimming out to the rock. I want to go swimming out to the rock. And like, for a nefarious reason, we'll get to it later, she's like, you know what? Do that.
Yeah.
And then he drowns. And she's a real piece of work, that Vera Claythorne. But then, and Justice Wargrave's just like, dude was guilty. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
He's like,
guilty.
the jury was being swayed by sentimentality. I wasn't going to let that happen in my courtroom.
So Mrs. Rogers, she faints. She collapses when she hears this accusation.
Oh, and then Emily Brent is the best one. Because, Emily Brent is like, I don't know how to feel about her.
I know how to feel about her.
I've read a lot of stuff by people who are like, oh yeah, nobody cared when she died. And I was like, I don't like her. Like, she's a bad person. But I don't know. She's not the worst.
No, she's not the worst. No.
Anthony Marston is the worst.
Marston is garbage.
He's the child murderer.
Brent is like, yeah, I had a servant girl and she had premarital sex. She didn't say those exact words, but she got pregnant. And
she got knocked out.
And you know what? That means the Lord hates you. Get out of my house. And when she
gives this girl this dressing down, and
the girl's parents abandoned her, and she's begging or pleading to be let back in, and Brent just will not let her back in, so she drowns herself, which really is 2 deaths when you think about it.
Yeah, and Emily Brent's just like, I didn't kill her. She killed herself. As far as I'm concerned.
Which is even more sin.
Yeah, that was a sin, and then she went and did another sin. She should probably stop sinning. And I'm like, Emily Brent, God, you're fucking cold, man. You're fucking cold. But like, of
General
all the people...
General MacArthur stands up. He's like, no, I would never do it. There was a mistake. I love my wife, and he was a good man. And even later, he's like, I'm so full of shit, and I think everyone saw that. It's pretty obvious.
General MacArthur's wife was obviously Stuppen, the guy he sent. It's a real King David situation here. Christie pulled this one right out of the Bible. He sends that guy off to die on a suicide mission on purpose because he was Stuppen his wife.
And then the kicker is his wife died a few years later anyway. Yeah. Wow, it was all pointless in the end.
Yeah.
And he was isolated because he was sure that people were talking about him behind his back, saying that he did it on purpose.
Yeah, and then the Rogerses, they say that they didn't kill the lady.
Yeah, she was old. She was old and frail.
It's hinted that she was probably taking some sort of medication that would stop like a heart episode.
Yeah, it was nitro.
Yeah, and they just withheld it from her.
Yeah.
So nobody could prove that they didn't take any positive action, but they didn't help her either. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure that would still be like if someone could prove you did that, that would still be manslaughter.
Well, yeah, but that would be the trick: is how do you prove they intentionally withheld it?
Yeah, this was the age before you had cameras in every room of your house recording everything you did.
So yeah, every one of these people is a criminal that the law can't touch.
Yeah.
Except Anthony Marsden, who just got away with it. There are
Marsden
definitely
had
laws
some
against
friends.
running over children.
He had a fine, and his license was suspended for months, dude. He couldn't drive fast for months because of those dumb kids who. Oh,
I guess he killed himself.
Oh, he killed himself. Yeah, that's really weird. The guilt finally caught up to him, even though he was kind of bragging about it.
Yeah, the guilt caught up with him, and he drowned himself in a single shot of whiskey.
Huh.
That's the first
weird.
death.
I guess let's go put him upstairs in his bed. We need to get this corpse out of the main dining room, so,
Yeah, so literally he dies that abruptly, and all the other people there are like, well, was it poison? But who could have poisoned him? We all drank from the same decanter.
Yeah, it was suicide. It's suicide,
And so-
guys.
They come to the unanimous conclusion that, well, the only person who could have touched his glass was him, and so he must have killed himself.
Yeah. It's a real, he shot himself in the back of the head type of situation.
Yeah, like 6 times.
It's really weird. Yeah. Oh, well. Let's not let this spoil the mood. Let's put him upstairs, put Mrs. Rogers to sleep.
Well, first let's make sure she's loaded with brandy.
Yes, I
Then-
did like that a lot of the treatment for shock is like, drink this alcohol. It will make you
Yeah.
feel better.
Here's brandy. Take just
And some
why don't you take
sleeping
a
meds.
generous snifter of brandy, and then also take these sleeping meds. What the fuck did he give her? He injected her with something, didn't he?
No, he gave her pills, I think.
Oh, okay. That's not really that much better. I don't think you're supposed to be drinking with those.
Yeah, you know, live it up a
brandy.
little. Yeah, it's brandy.
Brandy, it's healthier than an
Brandy.
apple. Come
It's-
on.
Yeah, come on. It's not the hard stuff. The good stuff.
Brandy's the new water.
It's just medicine, right? Come on. So they're like, well, I guess let's just all go to bed and the ship will come tomorrow. We'll just leave. It's been a really weird day, punctuated by a guy killing himself, I guess. But, you know what? Overall, 6 out of 10 for this bed and breakfast. Good night, guys. And they go to sleep, and of course the boat does not arrive the next day, Ben.
Yeah, and they're all like, well, yeah, I probably should have seen that one coming. But you know what else doesn't arrive the next day? Breakfast. Where the hell is it? It's like 10 a.m.
Yeah, this is England. You do not serve breakfast, okay? You are in a lord's house. We need to be punctual with our meals, good madam.
I'm going to go have a word with that. Oh, she's dead.
Oh, that's weird. 2 people having suicide? Wait a minute. That doesn't check out. Something else must be going on here, Ben. You know when I said put her to sleep? I didn't mean like that.
Yeah, you fucking drunk doctor.
The doctor's like, I just gave her sleeping meds. We all saw it. I gave her sleeping meds. I gave her
With alcohol.
And wow, you know,
Somebody should study the interactions between those 2 substances.
It's really weird that Marston, they all assume that Marston put potassium chloride, or potassium cyanide, sorry. Potassium chloride's, like, pretty harmless.
One of the cyanides. That's what they say.
They're like, oh, wow, he put cyanide in his drink, which is a really awful and shitty way to go. So, like, I don't think Marston would have done that, but okay. But now that 2 people have committed suicide, I don't know about that, sir or madam. I think there's a murder in afoot. And you know what else is weird? Now there's only 8 soldiers on the dining room table.
Oh, yeah, somebody's been ditching the figurines as each of us die. But you know what's even weirder? And this bothered me the whole rest of the book. The butler just keeps working.
Well, yeah, you have to maintain the generator or the power will go out. You have to make food.
So at this point, you know you've been lured to the island by a murderer who's intent on killing you because of your previous murders.
No, you don't know that because you're 100% guilty. Or, I mean, innocent. Innocent.
Right.
I said innocent.
Right, but you know that somebody wants to kill you. And
Yes.
that's the person that lured you. So what my point is, you're not getting paid for this.
Yeah. It's
you-
it's ingrained in every butler's DNA in England during that time that you just gotta keep buttling.
Oh, you know, stiff upper lip, keep calm, and carry on, buttle. But, no, if I'm that butler, I'm like, get your own fucking tongue, you goddamn pack of weirdos. I'm out of here.
So
Like literally, there's gonna be a day coming up here where like they don't get woken up or whatever, and they're like, "Where's Rogers? Who will bathe and dress me if Rogers is not here?" And I'm like, "What are you people like?"
they're used to a higher standard of living, damn it.
that killed me. Like, they're incapable of, like, waking up and starting their day unless a butler comes to rouse them.
So, yeah, we're down to 8, and Blore, Lombard, and Dr. Armstrong, they're like, okay, so someone else is on this island, poisoning our shit. They're gonna come for us. Let's scour the island. And Agatha Christie does a really good job. First of all, we don't talk about this enough. She gets a lot out of a little. This is like 250 pages, and you feel like you know almost every character. You feel like you have a reason for hating each and every single garbage person here. And she does a good job at basically telling you this is a pretty bare island. There's no real place for you to hide. The house is so modern, there's no, like, secret passages, which I guess they stopped building at the turn of the century. That was a real 1800s thing, right? So there's no loose floorboards or loose wall boards or secret crawl spaces or any of that thing. Even at one point, they split off very temporarily, but they split off so that they could get some rope, which definitely won't be used to hang anyone later on. That's not in the nursery rhyme. Don't think about that. And Lombard descends a sheer cliff face to verify there's no hidden caves or anything. So the only people who are on this island are these 8 people and 2 corpses.
It was strange to me that more people did not pay attention to the rhyme.
It was strange to me as well. I'm glad. Vera finally brings it up after like 5 people are already dead, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, because like they're giving you a big clue as to how the next person is going to die. So you could really look out for like that specifically.
With one exception, Ben. The next murder...
a couple exceptions.
Well, yeah. The next murder is a guy went to Devon and decided he was going to stay there, and then there were 7, right?
Right. So the general at this point, like, he's witnessed 2 people die in front of him, and he's like, you know what? I did send that guy off to die. He was getting with my wife, and I didn't like that. And
he's definitely remorseful. Yeah.
It kind of ruined my life, and I shouldn't have done it, and I deserve what I get. I'm just going to sit here and stare at the sea, and I'm going to insist that the rest of you be real with you. I don't like any of you. If you could just not spoil my final moments on Earth staring at the sea with your incessant babble, that'd be great. I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to wait to die. And Vera, who was like trying to sort of comfort him, she's dealing with her own guilt.
Right. Well, the kid was he just swam out there. I don't know why he swam out there. She is in a lot of denial, actually. That story
she is
in her head changes.
I have 2 qualms. So this is where I'm going to mention one of my qualms. Okay. I do think Agatha Christie does a really good job of like establishing the rules.
Yes.
Of like, there's nobody else on the island. I'm telling you that. That is not.
There's not going to be a secret 11th person hiding in the center of the island or something. Yeah.
I was very aware when they were all on their way to the island that we were inside each of their heads. She shifts perspective to each person, and each person is like reading their invitation and thinking about why they're going there. And I was looking for that. So I was like, one of these people is not going to mention like being confused, but they all mention being confused about why they're going in their own inner monologue. And that's kind of an ass pull.
That's fair. Yeah. Hey everyone, it's future Ed or Nate. I did want to be a little more fair to the text. As much as I want to outright say Ben is wrong, he isn't. I could see his argument completely. The text doesn't have the murderer thinking about why they're going to this sketchy island and why were they invited to that island. Their thought process is more about the history of the island and who could have invited them, because they're thinking about their alibi surviving under scrutiny. And technically we aren't being lied to. Technically, there aren't rules being broken about inner monologues, but it does kind of bend it to the point where you can't realistically solve this one definitively 100%. Ben argues that you can guess it pretty well, and, I'm going to be fair to him. I think Ben is more right than not here, but if anyone reads the book, which is all of you, I'm sure, and you go back and reread that first chapter, it technically makes sense for the murderer to think the way that they're thinking. Technically. Anyway, let's get back to it.
That's one area where, like, Christie had her cake and ate it too. Minor. It's very minor. But she doesn't say anything that, like, explicitly contradicts anything that follows that. But it was very much like you can't necessarily trust that just because she says something is one way that it is that way.
That's fair.
With Vera, they're also you spend a lot of time in Vera's head, and Vera is very much in denial. She starts remembering that day and then immediately shuts it down every time.
Yeah, she starts to remember it and she's like, "Why did that little shit swim out there? We told him that it was too far away.
I even tried to save him.
Yeah,
I swam out and I
swam
even tried
out
to save
there.
him.
Yeah,
I almost died myself, but then he wouldn't even look at me anymore. Who's he? Oh, I can't remember anymore. But MacArthur, when he's given this whole spiel about, like, yeah, you know what, I deserve to die. We all deserve to die. The guy's right. And she doesn't like that. That really sets her on a PTSD trigger. So she's out. She's like, screw you, old man. Okay, I'm not going to try to make you feel better anymore. And then they all go back after their searches and all that. They go in for lunch because, like I said, Butler's still working for some reason.
Was it lunch? I thought it was dinner.
It was lunch because they go to call him in for lunch. I'm 90% sure.
I thought it was getting dark out, but yeah, okay, whatever.
There's a storm coming.
Ah, that might be what it is.
Yeah, because the island, even if they could get somebody to come out and pick them up, the island is inaccessible in storms. If the harbor, the only place you can dock a boat, if there is a swell coming from, like, the southeast or something, it's impossible to get in.
Yeah.
So they established that too. So these people, because I was thinking, like, it's a mile off the coast, and I was saying, and I'm just being a nitpicky asshole, like, I can swim a mile and I'm not in, like, the best of shape. But no, these are like choppy seas with a strong current that are totally out of control in a storm, which we are about to have.
And probably filled with German U-boats. I guess it's not a period.
Yeah, at this stage they might be, yeah.
So Dr. Armstrong is like, oh, wow, it's really weird. The general's not back. I'll go get him. So he goes to get him, and come quick. Don't you remember the nursery rhyme? 8 little soldier boys sitting around. One got a flotation device to the fucking head, and he went down.
One got a flotation device and was beaten to the ground.
Yeah, so
they take some liberties.
that was definitely probably the most egregious example. He took a flotation device. That's what it was, right? I'm not remembering that wrong.
So,
heavy blunt object to the back of the head.
You're not remembering that wrong, but, like, I did suspect Armstrong here because, like,
Yeah,
what the hell? Why would you assume? Okay, so what they see is MacArthur sprawled on the beach with his head bashed in. Why in God's name would you assume somebody did that with a life preserver, like one of those big lifesaver?
Maybe back then things. Life preservers are like heavy pieces of driftwood. And clobbered someone with. I don't know.
Can I point out he's on a rocky beach?
No, you can't point that out. You
filled with rocks.
Not allowed.
Why would... So that's where I was a little suspicious of Armstrong here. Not just because, like, Armstrong also treated the Mrs. Rogers.
Yeah.
Before she died. And I was like, it's almost too obvious. That's the only reason I never seriously suspected Armstrong, was because it was too obvious. I'll tell you about the point where I formulated my suspicions. I
was suspicious of Armstrong here, for sure.
I was suspicious of him, but I was like, this is too easy. But he was a doctor. Poison is a doctor's weapon, for sure. And he's the only person who was alone with MacArthur. But in Christie fashion, we will examine that right now, where when they finally find this body, and this guy was killed violently. There's no mistaking suicide.
There's no suicide this time. He didn't bash his own head in.
No, there's definitely somebody violently murdering people on this island. So, Justice Wargrave, he takes charge because he's a big, important man. And
yeah, his name is Justice Wargrave.
Yeah. He's like, okay, let's examine this. Let's be brutally honest. Everyone
could have gotten him.
Who could we eliminate? And they go through the whole day. They examine where everybody was at exactly which time. And basically, no one can be eliminated definitively as a suspect. Everyone had access at some point to each of these people to murder them. So, if there is no one else on the island, we can eliminate no suspects, then it's got to be one of us. One of us is UN Owen.
Well, who wants to go to bed? I think we all need a long rest after this. We'll just lock our doors. No problem.
Lock our doors at night. We'll take certain precautions, We're not going to let anybody prepare food by themselves. We're going to watch the food be prepared. We're each going to eat from our own unopened tins. Unfortunately, this place is like stocked to the gills with booze.
Yeah.
They have enough booze that they can open a new bottle every time. They're a lord.
Yeah. Like you said, it's like water. I don't think anyone drinks water except for Emily Brent.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She doesn't drink alcohol.
This is why they didn't have plumbing for the longest time. Everyone's just too busy drinking booze only. They used to rinse out the toilet with booze.
Yeah, but they got everything they need, so they're gonna sit it out.
Yeah, it's not 10 little soldier boys sitting on an island starving to death. The end. That'd be a bad nursery rhyme. So here's what happens next. Like you said, they wake up, it's like 10 a.m. and they're like, oh my god, a butler hasn't woken us up. What the hell? I'm going to go give him a good talking to. Now let's rewind a few hours previous, right? This isn't in the book, but this must have been how it happened. Rogers, the butler, whose wife is already dead. There are two other dead people in addition to his wife.
He also knows he's not getting paid for this buttling work.
Yeah, he's still buttling, and he knows that they're dying by the nursery rhyme, and he's like, you know what I'm going to do?
What is the next nursery rhyme verse, by the way?
7 little soldier boys chopping up sticks. 1 chopped himself in half, and then there were 6. So you know what I need to do? I need to go chop some firewood.
Yeah, it's like, that reminds me. I need to chop some firewood. I'm going to take 1 small axe to chop the firewood, and I'm going to lean another larger axe, like, right behind me, just in case anyone wants to come and help me chop firewood.
Yes. And yes, obviously, he's dead. And this is the point where Vera is like, guys, are there any bumblebees on this island? Because that's the next verse. Someone gets stung by a bee and dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next verse is 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive, a bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5.
Yeah.
So as long as there's no bumblebees, we're safe, right? Unless, of course, the killer were a little flexible with the particulars of the rhyme,
That'd be ridiculous, though. I hope they're not, because one of the rhymes is about a bear hugging you to death, and as long as there's not a zoo on this island, we're gonna last through to the end, guys. But yeah, we also learned that Lombard brought a revolver.
Yeah.
Everyone's forming little cliques, and they're all pretty sure they know who it is. They think it's this guy or that guy. I think Lombard and Blore think it's one another. I think Vera thinks that it's Blore. Or no, she thinks it's the doctor. So everyone's forming little bands. They're all suspicious of each other, except for Emily Brent.
I had pretty much eliminated Emily Brent from my suspect pool.
I had eliminated both the women.
There was a chance for Vera. There is something coming up soon that eliminated Vera permanently for me. But I had eliminated Brent because when they got into like bashing somebody's head in with what was obviously a rock. I don't know why he said life preserver. And then chopping somebody's head with an axe. She seems to be genuinely a religious fanatic. Like, the only way she can live with herself is by knowing that she did what her interpretation of the Bible says is right.
Yeah, she has to be better than you as well. And
obviously, to just blatantly murder someone with an axe, that doesn't jive with her character. Unless her character is like totally misrepresented, in which case I'd say, Agatha Christie, like, that sucks. I mean, that's on you. I'm working with the information you gave me. I've been in her head. She is genuinely a religious zealot. So I don't think she's going to do that. So I eliminated her.
Yeah, and soon enough, the killer eliminates her too.
Yeah.
I thought she was having like an absence seizure or something. She was definitely having what seemed like an elderly moment at the time where everything's so distant and far away and she's not thinking clearly, and then she gets quote-unquote stung by a bee, quote-unquote, in her neck. And
she sees a bee in the window. Somebody brought a bee.
Yes. And they find her dead. She had been stung, but by the needle of a hypodermic, which the doctor, of course, brought. And so everyone's like, you brought a needle.
Yeah, and this is like, if I were not in a murder mystery right now, the doctor's going down. Like,
right.
The doctor has like means, motive, and opportunity. I guess he doesn't have motive. That's unclear, but he has means and opportunity on all of these. Now, I will say, it was about this point I started thinking about a couple of realities of the situation. And this is where I started making my, I made one more elimination. I basically narrowed it down to two.
Real quick, we should say that the hypodermic is missing, Penn.
So, the biggest clue in this whole book, to me, is the purchase of Soldier Island itself. Soldier Island is expensive. Getting all these people out here was expensive. So you have to immediately eliminate all of the people here who are broke.
Yeah.
Which means Blore is out, Lombard's out, Claythorne's out. The only people that have money are the good doctor, the guy who died in the beginning, who had the fancy car, and Justice Wargrave,
Possibly
successful
the
judge.
General. Possibly. Well, no, never mind. He's a World War I general. Never mind.
Yeah, they didn't
probably
pay
didn't
him.
get shit.
Yeah, but then he died too. So that's who. Like I was going with that. I didn't know if it was too meta or whatnot, but barring one of these people telling me that they're secretly wealthy, I had narrowed it down to the people who could afford to bring everybody out here.
That would have to be the trick. Someone would have to be like, "Oh yeah, my uncle gave me a generous stipend when he died."
Well, and that's the other crazy thing to me is that nobody, like the other thing that made me think that might be the case, none of the other characters mention that.
Right.
None of the other characters ever think about the financial angle. Because if they did, it does eliminate like 2/3 of the people.
So we're down to Wargrave and Armstrong, it sounds like.
To me, that's who I had it narrowed down to at this point. And I'll be honest with you, I'm leaning Wargrave simply because if Armstrong is doing it, he is the most incompetent murderer I have ever seen because it looks so much like Armstrong did it.
Yes, so I was leaning Wargrave until, well, let's go to what happened next, Ben.
Yeah.
So they're all like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Another dead person. We're all just going to sit in this room. We're going to look at each other. If we ever leave, all four of us remain here. while the other person goes out and leaves. Whenever we make any drink, we're going to watch it. Whenever we open up any food, we're going to open our own food because they're in tins. And we're just going to sit here until it's time for bed. And then we're going to lock our doors and barricade ourselves in with furniture. And then in the morning, we're going to wake up and we're going to do it all over again. You got me? That's what we're going to do. And then the power goes out. Because, shit, this runs on a generator.
Was the butler powering the generator this whole time? Like, do we know how to do anything ourselves? Guys, do you ever think maybe we're too reliant on the butler? Why was he even still bottling? He wasn't going to get paid.
Well,
His employer brought him here to kill him.
Someone did...
No, I did suspect the butler a little bit. I did suspect the butler a little bit till he got axed because...
I thought he was too incompetent.
Well, that could have been a ruse, Nathaniel. It could have been a ruse. But then, because he mentioned he got money from that old lady he killed.
Right.
And why would he keep doing his job? I can't tell you how much that bothered me.
Yeah.
Go on, I'm sorry.
Why would he kill his own wife? Why would he reveal her crime?
Why have like the thousands of people who killed their wives today killed their wives?
Well, it's not like he was a hot young thing looking for a new wife. You know what I'm saying?
If a wife dies, the husband did it until proven otherwise. That is my approach to crime. I'm a married man.
That's most people's approach to crime, really.
I was going to say, I'm a married man.
All right, lights go out, and they light some candles. Someone does say, "Oh, I can go power the generator," and they're like, "Yeah, not without us," or something like that. Someone offers to do it, and they're like, "Nah, we got candles, bro." So, Vera,
I think they could wait till tomorrow for the daylight. I think that's maybe their thing.
Yeah, and then it'll be dark again tomorrow night. That's how days and nights work.
No, right, but you could power the generator tomorrow morning.
You power it now, but fine, whatever. Fine, let's go do that. Vera is starting to become a little more unraveled. The story is starting to be less, why'd that dumb kid swim out to that rock, and more, I think that...
Oh, Hugo, what if we could get married?
Yeah.
I would like to marry you, darling, but alas, I don't have any money. I would have had money if Cyril hadn't been born, because I was next in line for the inheritance. But since Cyril, that little rapscallion who we all love, was born, I'm going to have to go out and get a job. And then I'll come back for you, Vera. I promise I'll come back for you. Right after I get a job at the Chippendales.
Right after I actually go and work for a living. I know it's horrible work. Not just getting your money handed to you. But someone's got to
Hugo, if only there was some way that Cyril weren't in the way, then you'd get the inheritance. Oi, Miss Vera, can I swim out to the rock? Why don't you ever let me swim out to the rock, you fucking clods? Let me swim out to the rock.
Yes.
And Vera's just sitting there like, oh no, it's all coming back to me.
She goes up into her room. She screams after smelling seaweed, which smelled exactly like that day. And everyone runs up after her thinking she's getting a stabby stab. But instead, she was not getting a stabby stab. And when they return, they're like, wait a minute, where's the judge? Let's go back down. He must have been the last one out. What the fuck? He's dead, Ben. He's sitting at his table. Oh yeah, someone stole the curtains and like
her yarn.
Balls of yarn to make him a fake judge's wig and cloak, and he was apparently shot in the head, Ben. Because the next part of the rhyme very clearly references the legal system, and no one thought, like, oh, I guess you're next, buddy.
Yeah, 5 little soldier boys going in for law. One got in chancery, and then there were fa? I don't know which accent that rhymes in. Maybe Southern or British. Or I say
British.
4.
Yeah.
I say 4 like a normal person.
Yeah.
Which 4 does not rhyme with lore. But, whatever.
So, Yeah, he's dead. And Armstrong goes over and checks on him. He's like, yep, he's been shot in the head. And my thought was, how'd you not hear that? Guns are really, really loud. And they're like, well, she was screaming. We were all shuffling up the stairs. And I was just thinking, you would have heard something.
Yeah, no. I'm 100% with you on this. I'm 100% with you on this. Because this is where I was like, This is another one where I was like, what is Agatha Christie telling me? Because Agatha Christie, like, she seems to write definitively that there is an explanation for why they wouldn't have heard the shot. Now, their explanation for why they wouldn't have heard the shot could only be given by someone who had never heard a gunshot in their lives.
Yes, guns sounds fucking loud.
Especially old revolvers. They're loud. It sounds like a cannon.
They don't sound like someone stomping up the stairs quickly.
No, if somebody uses a gun inside a house next door, you're going to wake up.
Yes. They're fucking loud. There's a reason they have those noise canceling what are they?
Headphones at the range.
Headphones? Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason they have those cuz guns are fucking loud.
Yeah. So, I didn't know. I didn't know whether that was like, is there something sus about this, or does Agatha Christie just really not know that much about guns?
Yeah, and by the way, his gun was reported missing earlier. So, that absolves him of everything. The gun was missing. He couldn't have shot him.
Perhaps the most annoying thing about this is that it ruined my theory.
Yes.
I was like 90% sure it was Wargrave.
I was pretty sure it was Armstrong now. And
I just think it's just too obvious. I never seriously considered him. But it does make sense.
I considered him. I'll tell you why once we get to the next part. So Wargrave, he's dead. They're down to 4. And so I guess let's put him in his bed. There's a lot of bedrooms with just corpses in them. It's really weird. So yeah, let's go to sleep, I guess. Night.
It also takes, a minute. Like, some of those have to be starting to smell. You know what I would do? I would
stack them in the cellar, or
yes,
put them outside.
Yes,
literally anything. Yeah.
Put them. There's like a boathouse. Yeah.
Now we're gonna put them in these rooms. And just don't open the door because they're going to decompose and the smell's going to build up. And if you open the door, you will be hit by waves of decomposing flesh smell. You will vomit uncontrollably if you open these doors.
Yeah.
But they all go back to bed, to their rooms. Vera is having PTSD flashbacks because seaweed. And she sees there's a hook in her room, and she's like, oh, that's really ominous that the seaweed was hanging on. And it's like, well, you're going to be the last one.
Chekhov's hook.
You're going to be the last one. The last one hangs themselves. There's a hook in your room, so...
Yep. You're also the most mentally unstable at this point.
Right. And Lombard, he finds his gun is back. Good for him.
Oh, good news. My gun's back.
They did, at this point, strip search everyone and also search all their rooms and put all the chemicals and stuff that they could in a locked area that Blore and Lombard both have the key to. There's an outer lock and an inner lock, and Blore and Lombard have the key for one of those two. So you need both keys from both of them to get inside.
But, Nathaniel, they did not check the prison pouch, which means... Anyone could still have anything.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
Maybe Agatha Christie... Well, okay, not on Vera.
Because Vera got to wear a swimsuit.
She had a swimming suit, which I'm sure was like a full body thing, plus a hat, because it's Victorian.
I do not think anyone reached into anyone's ass, and I don't know how they could feel safe if they didn't.
We'll have to do an updated version, the Words About Books version of this, where like
prison wallet edition.
Yes, exactly. Each of them are like, okay, we really don't want to do this, but how about this? We draw straws and like we just go around and we form a conga line. People just reaching their hands all the way up there.
You could 100%, 100% hide poisons up your butt. People do that all the time. That's how they get heroin into the country.
And
sir.
sometimes it goes too far up and it breaks down your system and you die of heroin overdose. Yeah.
We should wait for that to happen to one of these people.
Well,
I'm gonna watch you poop.
They already bared down and got that out of there while they were in their rooms at night. So, Blore is just hanging out, thinking like, who is this? Who's it gonna be? It's gotta be Armstrong, but no, it's gotta be Lombard. Lombard brought a revolver here. He's a really weird fellow. Wait, what was that? I heard noises. I heard footsteps. No, those are definitely footsteps. I could open my door right now and see who this is, but I'm going to go first, put on my gentleman's cloak, put on my boots, my socks first, of course. I gotta
Need a
do
pocket
full
watch?
wardrobe. Yeah, pocket watch. Gotta get my hat. You know, I'm chasing after a killer. I gotta do it.
An Englishman is
good.
naked without his hat.
So
That's why their judges have to wear those dumbass wigs.
So he sees someone leaving the house, and he's like, oh shit. Obviously, someone is going out to the ocean to die, because that's the next verse, but alright. So he starts knocking on doors. Vera's there. Lombard is there. Armstrong is missing. We got him. We finally got him. Let's chase him out to the ocean and hopefully not drown. So Vera is going to stay behind. She's a dainty flower, and, you know, we can't have... She is suffering PTSD. I'll give him that. So Lombard and
Vera
Blore...
might be more of a liability.
Lombard and Blore are going to go after the bastard Armstrong. Lombard reveals he's got a gun. Blore's like, you do?
Well, that's a bit sus.
Who? Okay. Well, this is not good, because in a fight, you're gonna just shoot me now. All right, whatever.
The thing that made me not suspect Lombard was every time somebody was like, Lombard, what if we just got rid of the gun and then we'd all feel better? And Lombard was like, I wouldn't, so no. I was like, you know what? At least he's honest. I mean, like, this is like, I feel like an idiot voting for president.
Yeah, I never suspected Lombard, because clearly not a great guy, and that's just too obvious.
Yeah.
I figured it's got to be Armstrong. Blore, Lombard, Vera.
I thought it was
can't be them.
At this point, I'm suspecting Blore.
I didn't suspect Blore, because if so, he would be a shitty detective outing himself like that. I'm Davis, mate.
So the only reason I suspected Blore at this point was because now I'm like, well, which one of these people even has a motive anymore? And I'm thinking like, okay, Blore, he was in law enforcement. Maybe he regrets being a corrupt cop. Maybe this is how he makes amends, and he's taking all these people down with him. That's the only thing I have at this point.
I was thinking about that with maybe Armstrong. Maybe he just didn't think about it. My thought was, okay, this next one is 4 little soldier boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. And Armstrong's nowhere on the island. They can't find him. And as we established, there's nowhere to hide. Then the next day comes, and Vera points out it's a red herring. So obviously he's hiding somewhere. He's faked it. And then they start talking about him like he's definitely the killer, and I started having doubts, like, you wouldn't do this in a detective novel, but I was thinking, like, maybe it's a double fake, right? The characters are all thinking it to make me not think it, but you said it is a red herring, so it actually is him. I was getting the old reverse double deception.
I was still leaning Blore at this point, because Blore is the only person that saw Armstrong walk out. Now,
That's
granted,
true.
we were in his head at this time, but I was already like, I don't know if I can trust inner monologues in this, because they all have an inner monologue where they're all going there to meet some mysterious person.
I figured Armstrong faked his death so that the others would then naturally turn on each other. So, because they all suspected him. He was
But where could he
had
hide?
the most access. So, yeah, I was wondering, like, did he did he have a way to hide in the ocean somehow? Like, I don't know. But I was
Can
like,
he breathe water?
maybe a red herring swallowed one. Maybe there was something in the ocean that swallowed him. Like, maybe he had some really lame submersible or something.
Okay, this is less plausible than my prison pocket idea.
I do think that he faked his death somehow. I just wasn't sure how.
Well, this was another one where I was like, if he faked his death, then it's all bullshit. I don't care. And I don't know how the best-sellingest detective novel in the world could be bullshit. So I'm like, I think he's dead. I think he went over those cliffs.
Only partially right, as it turns out. So that finally leaves the three of them. They're like, let's get out of the house. There are a lot of corpses in this house. Let's just leave and let's wait for help to come. And why does Blore go back in the house?
He's hungry.
He's hungry.
He wants that tongue.
He's like, I need to go get something to eat. And
I need that tongue on my
and
tongue.
Blore is like, there might be someone in the house still. We don't know. Armstrong, we didn't find him. Can I have your gun? Lombard's like, no. You can either starve or you can go in there gunless. Fine, I'll do it. I'm gonna like it.
Need that beef tongue. And yet again, my prime suspect was murdered.
Yes, he was hugged by a bear. Did you know that there was a clock with a bear on it? Like, it was bear-shaped, and it was weighed a fucking metric ton, and it just smashed this guy's fucking head?
I did after she hastily made that up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no Chekhov's bear clock.
Well, it's weird because they didn't immediately go, oh, there's actually someone in the house. Okay. No, Lombard was like, well, that's it then. There's only me and you left. I know it's not me, so I know it's got to be you. And then Armstrong's body washes up on shore, and they're like,
well,
oh, he did.
They still thought it was Armstrong at that point.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, Armstrong
so when they
washes up
found
on
Armstrong's,
shore.
Yeah. Then
well,
they're
again,
like,
I'm thinking, I wonder how he faked this. Like, maybe he colored his face. I don't know, man. They didn't check him. They were just like, he's face down, his face is purple.
Well, my understanding was like, there's no head. Oh, you mean Armstrong's body? Armstrong's body.
Yeah, Armstrong. No, Blore is definitely not it. He where a head once was, there is now a bear clock.
I think when you find a man who's been submerged in salt water for 48 hours, you know he's dead.
That wasn't 48 hours. It was the previous night, I'm pretty sure.
36 hours.
He's a doctor. He can fake these things, Ben, okay?
We all can. But they train us to.
Vera's like, we gotta get him out of there. We gotta get him out of high tide or whatever, so that the tide won't just wash his body away. And Lombard's like, yeah, sure, I guess we can do that, even though I think you're the murderer now. Mm-hmm. And then she pickpockets his gun.
Yep. Crafty.
It is strange that no one's like, okay, how did Blore die, though? Did we, like, set up a Rube Goldberg machine to drop a clock on his head?
I wondered if that would be it, but keep that Rube Goldberg machine in mind, because there is one.
Yes, that is true.
No, so we could eliminate Vera as a suspect, because the judge was murdered while Vera was upstairs. Like, we knew that. So you know Vera didn't kill the judge.
And we also know she's going to be the last one because the hook's in her room. So
right. But Lombard, I was like, but now he's acting like I was pretty certain it wasn't either of these two. So now I'm thinking, did somebody mastermind it, knowing that these two would turn on each other at the end and kill each other? Like, did Armstrong jump off the cliff knowing that this would happen?
Yeah,
like, did he?
I think I was kind of right when I said Armstrong faked a death. It just wasn't his death. So,
all right, so let's go on.
Vera shoots Lombard right in the heart. He's down. Vera's like, I'm free. Oh my God, I killed a child. Oh my God. My love wants me to hang myself because I deserve this. And there's a noose and a chair.
She walks in and the noose and the chair are already there. And so she's like, oh, the ghost of my lover is telling me.
Even though my lover's still alive. Yeah, he's telling me
that was weird, yeah.
To kill myself. Well, bye. That.
And then there were none.
Yep, and then there's a end of the book where the detectives, there's one key point where the judge, the guy he sentenced to death, later evidence did come out to confirm that guy was guilty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Judge was right. That's when I was kind of like, is it the judge?
I was like, it's back in, right? But then there's another thing, and this was what blew my mind. This was like legit creepy, where they're like, but the chair under Vera wasn't kicked out from underneath her. It was placed neatly on back where it was supposed to be. And so somebody was still alive after Vera to put that chair back.
Yep.
Now I'm like, what the fuck?
And they've all kept some diaries, so the police know at least everything up until the last, day or so.
Yeah, they're able to more or less piece together the order of events or the order of deaths.
Yeah, I think they don't really know but right before Armstrong dies, but I think they've got everything up until the judge dying.
Yeah. So fortunately for us, there's a second epilogue.
Yeah, where my Kindle actually said the book was over before this, after the first
Mine
epilogue.
too. That pissed me off.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it had better not be. I was like, it had better not be, because I am not smart enough to have figured this out if that was supposed to be the final clue.
Yeah, there's a message in a bottle. It's a really long message. It's more like a book inside of a bottle.
Yeah, it was a large bottle.
It was the judge. Tells you how he did everything. The big thing was the doctor did fake a death, but not his own death, the judge's death.
Maybe Agatha Christie does know what a gun sounds like.
Yeah, maybe she does, because the gun didn't actually go off. I hope. I assume. After that. So, yeah, it was dim lighting, and the only one who checked on the body was Armstrong. And he said that, oh yeah, he's dead. The judge apparently came to him and was like, hey, let's fake my death. We'll bring out the killer. That'll really throw the killer off. And Armstrong didn't think back to the rhyme and go, but this is the one where the judge dies. Shouldn't we not kill you next? Maybe the killer wants you to die next. But no, he definitely thought it was Lombard the whole time because he's an idiot. I'm just telling you, if the judge comes to me and is like, hey, let's fake my death, I'll play along, but you're going over that cliff next, buddy. Not me. Or I'll at least leave a note like, hey, if I die horribly, I faked the judge's death. So if I'm dead, go and beat his body to a pulp.
It is a little funny that they didn't notice he was alive. Because, they carried him upstairs. They set him on a bed.
He held his breath the whole time.
He has no exit wound. He never went to the bathroom.
Yeah, I think it'd be really hard to play dead.
I'm right next to his face. Like, the dim lighting and everything, that's why they didn't notice in the moment. But when they're carrying him upstairs, it's like, is this red putty? This is obviously red putty. I mean,
yeah,
but yeah, this is
it is a little weird.
Nitpick. It's very warm and squishy.
Huh? I can hear his heart beating. He pushed Armstrong over the cliff. That was the red herring. Oh my God, is that a guy down in a cave? Do you see a light? Where?
Karate kick.
So, yeah, then he threw the thing out on the bloor and...
What would he have done if Lombard had just shot Vera?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Together, we could have solved the mystery, Ben. You got the perp, I figured out how it worked.
Now, let's talk about how the judge... Because they do find the judge dead. The detectives, he's definitely dead when they get there. So what nonsense did he pull to make that happen? Because the gun is found some distance from the body.
Yeah. It's a good old Rube Goldberg machine, Ben. There's an elastic band that's gonna fling the revolver after he dies, and like the machine is set up to shoot him in the head, roughly the way he was supposed to have died.
I followed absolutely none of that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna have to take your word for it, because, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think that was particularly well handled. I felt like less would have been more there. Because I don't believe it worked.
No, I think that part was a little like, okay. I'll just have to take your word that that's how that happened.
Yeah. But overall, I think it was pretty solvable. Like I said, there was a couple of cheats with the inner monologues. I thought it was, I guess that's the real challenge of this one, is you have to give everybody an inner monologue, or the one who doesn't have an inner monologue is the one who did it. Because there's no detective.
Except for Tony Marston.
Yeah. Well, there's no detective to see everything and take it all in, but yeah, this was an interesting book. It was not what I was expecting. It made me appreciate the detective stories a little bit more, I think. It was almost like very dark. I'm kind of surprised she got away with it back then, because it sort of romanticizes the killer.
By the way, he also kills another guy off screen because there had to be 10, and his technically wasn't one of them because, that guy was found to be guilty at the end, Ben. So, yeah.
So far, I think we've read like the two least traditional stories.
Yeah, because you didn't want the Murder on the Orient Express on the list for voting, so.
Well, the problem is I know the end of the Murder on the Orient Express. The two we read are written, at least partially, from the perspective of the killer. And that makes it obviously very difficult to solve. I don't know if you're supposed to solve these. I don't know. I don't read a lot of detective stories.
I think you're supposed to.
So, do you think this was solvable?
I almost was. Like I said, if we had been together, I could have been like, I think the doctor's faking his own death, and you would have been like, wait, no! Shut up, Nate! He did fake a death, but it was the justice's death. Oh my god. It all makes sense now, kind of.
I feel like I got
I actually
close.
almost thought that the police were going to show up on the island and one of them would still be alive, but...
That would have made more sense. Like, that would have made more sense as a way to explain who the killer was. I really don't like the end with the gun being rigged up to go back into the hallway. I actually thought that was really stupid and kind of undermined everything else. I think it's mostly solvable. Like, the person who did it makes sense as the person who would have done it. You can very clearly pick him out as, like, the most likely. But there's too much there contradicting to say definitively that it was him. I don't actually think there's a way, with the information you're given, to prove that it was the judge. I didn't like it in that respect, but I did like it in the respect that it was like weirdly dark. None of these people is a hero. You kind of want all of them to die. And you're kind of wondering which one of them would do it and why. And that's where I got pointed to the judge initially, was he seemed to have the best reason. Like, he specifically states, like, I really care about justice, and I'm not going to let somebody get out of my courtroom if I think they did it. And that's perfectly in line with what's happening here. Like, his motive, he's got motive, means, and opportunity, and no one else really does. And then he dies, and you're like, I have to go with what I'm told. If Agatha Christie tells me there's no one on the island, should I believe her? Because obviously there is a place someone could have hidden on this island.
A submersible off the shore, Ben.
A hidden basement covered with sand. I mean, there's plenty of places you could hide. Like, there's no way you could definitively say for certain that there is no other person on this island. She has to just be like, no, trust me, there isn't. And I have to believe her.
Yeah.
But
why don't you believe her?
Because sometimes she lies to me. Because the judge wasn't confused about the person who sent him the letter.
It's really weird that I got this letter from myself with a fake...
I better think this in case anybody's reading my mind right now. I didn't like the way that was handled. I do like the book. I think I actually give it 5 out of 5 in spite of the lack of solvability. Because it's like you said, it's again, each of these characters has an in-depth backstory. And there's so little page count. There's no fat whatsoever. I mean, right now I'm juxtaposing this with like I read this and now I'm reading Caliban's War for next week.
Yeah.
And the way that like backgrounds and characters are handled in the two is just so different. I mean, when you compare like a modern doorstopper fantasy series to something like Agatha Christie, where she's like, here's 12 fully developed characters. In 200 pages, I'm going to tell you about all of them, and I'm going to give you an entire narrative in which they all die. Just because I heard a nursery rhyme once and I took it as a challenge.
That's how you do it. Good night, Moon? No. I will be saying good night, sir.
Good night indeed, Moon. No, I love the characters. I think that's what saves it. Is the story itself is a good story. And it's dark and it's weird. It's kind of edgelordy almost, but she softens that with the characterization. Yeah, I've been talking for a while. Tell me your final thoughts.
Yeah, Ben. Just went on forever. Jesus Christ. No, I like it. Like I said, she did a very good job at characterizing. It's like 250 pages, but she characterizes, I would say about 8 people. Maybe 7. The general, you get about as much of him as we said, and then he dies. But the other people I think are really well fleshed out. She did a good job at basically saying it's got to be one of these people. There's no one else on this island. And like you said, there's only a few things like the money angle. Short of someone coming out and saying, oh, I'm secretly rich, it could only be like 2 or 3 people from the initial 10.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that was just English society back then. Everyone had at least, one butler or house servant, and even the lesser people didn't have. They had a house, even if it wasn't named something estate. They still
everyone
had
who could afford to read or write a novel, certainly.
Yeah. So no, I think that she got a lot out of this. She's a very talented writer. I know that's spoilers. That's news here in 2023. She's a very
Agatha
talented
Christie,
writer.
good.
Yeah, she gets a lot out of a little. I can't think of anything that she could have trimmed to make this better. Which is not something we say often on this podcast.
No, that is absolutely true. It is super tight writing. And the other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, I probably did on the previous episode, but it's like super tight writing in the days before a computer. There is no Control F. She has to like handwrite all this out and then have it typed. And so like that is especially interesting to me, that she can like plan it out so well.
All right, everyone, that is a wrap. Thank you for listening. A special shout out to our patrons in the Yacht Plan supporter group. James from If You Want the Gravy, does a lot of movie reviews. and really all kinds of reviews. I'm going to make him drink some Mountain Dew Pitch Black as soon as I can find it. And then, of course, there's Brad, a.k.a. Isekai Sama Sensei, who is doing a podcast that also involves one member of this group on That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster. So go check him out. As always, if you're interested in supporting the show, we have a Patreon at WAB Pod. Buy me a coffee at WAB Pod. Twitter handles at WAB Pod. Instagram is at Words About Books Podcast, because for some reason we changed it up just to throw ourselves off so that I have to check it every single time. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Good luck and good night.
And now, a dramatic reenactment of the judge's supposed death.
That came from upstairs.